All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to continue to let people come in here, but we don't want to hold this up any longer. So, hi everyone, my name is Sean Walvin. I'm the CEO of Secure Cyber Defense. I've got my cohort with me, Joe Tinney, who's also our lead engineer. And we've got an exciting webinar for you today. We're going to go over deep packet inspection and why that's important. Many people may not know that utilizing a UTM firewall like a FortiGate is even more effective by utilizing SSL inspection or also called deep packet inspection. So we're going to kind of go into that and then do a short demo for you and then answer some questions. So we're going to get right into the content. So who is Secure Cyber Defense? I founded the company back in 2015 where obviously there was a need for cybersecurity solutions. And so we span multiple industries. We have some concentration industries that we do some work for, but primarily financial, manufacturing, aerospace, state and local government. Those are all some core areas that we concentrate in. So there's no no offshoring. So everything that we do is here in the United States. We offer 24/7 alerting and response. And just a little bit about Secure Cyber Defense and what we do. So we are 100% cyber. 100% cyber. We don't do any IT work at all. So no IT work is done. So we're not your, I guess what you would call a traditional MSP. Managed firewall, we offer a variety of managed solutions, managed firewall, managed email protect, managed SIM, and even a new addition is our 24/7 forensic response unit. So we actually have certified forensic investigators that are here inside Secure Cyber Defense. We actually respond to incidents anywhere in the United States, boots on the ground. So that's something that's a little bit unheard of in the industry. I know a lot of insurance companies would like to do this remotely. So that's a big benefit for us. And then certainly our DFARS and CMMC expertise. So if you're in the aerospace industry, manufacturing, and NIST compliance is something that's important to you, then you can reach out to us and we can help you with DFARS and CMMC activities. We are a FortiNet advanced partner, so you'll notice on our shirts and the things behind us have a lot to do with FortiNet, and we're proud to be part of that organization. All right, so just a little bit of an agenda here, and then we'll kind of let Joe get started. So just a little bit of an intro, understanding SSL, deep packet inspection, and what it is and how it works. Some visibility and gains, how to do this, and what additional visibility do you get from doing this. How to prepare for a DPI deployment, and then we'll actually get into a scenario where we're actually doing a demo in the cloud. All right, so Joe, I guess I'll just kind of go ahead and let you get started.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Sean, and welcome everyone. I'm Joe Tinney, the lead cybersecurity engineer for Secure Cyber Defense. I've been working in and around Dayton, Ohio for more than 10 years. I've worked with all sizes of businesses, helping them to solve their IT and security challenges. As Sean said, today we are talking about SSL deep packet inspection, and specifically SSL DPI with the FortiGate firewall running FortiOS 6.2. SSL deep packet inspection will unlock secure traffic flowing through your networks to allow for security inspection of the data and to expose and thwart cyber attacks attempting to hide. Unlocking this traffic that is hiding in plain sight is the next step to providing security while maintaining privacy for yourself and the users on your network. Together, we'll go on a journey to understand SSL encryption from a high level. We'll discuss the security challenges we face as a result of encrypted traffic and the visibility and security gains from an SSL DPI inspection deployment. During our trip, we'll outline how to prepare for the actual deployment and demonstrate the configuration and operation of the firewall and the end user experience. So sit back, enjoy your pizza if you registered early, and let's get started. Secure socket layer encryption, or SSL as it is commonly known, is used to ensure privacy for transactions and data transmission between two endpoints. In our case, your web browser and the server or services you are accessing. A quick tech note, SSL was replaced by TLS after SSL 3.0, but SSL is still the dominant term, and that's what we'll be using today. Just know when I say it that I'm referring to TLS through version 1.3. SSL encryption is accomplished via an SSL certificate and is part of a technology known as public key encryption or public key cryptography. This system is operating on PKI, public key infrastructure. It is a network used to create a chain of trust where companies vouch for other companies' identity. The companies providing the assurance are called certification authorities, and over time have been automatically included in your operating systems and web browsers' chain of trust. These authorities issue SSL certificates, and during the certificate request process, are required to gather and verify details from the requester. This information is embedded in the SSL certificate and includes not only the identity of the website, like its address, who requested the certificate, and who issued it, but also the public key of the server. After you've entered the URL of your bank's website and hit enter, your web browser will reach out to the server and, if presented with the SSL handshake, will begin the encryption process. This is useful when you're banking online, looking at health data from your insurance provider, and nowadays, most any other activity on the internet. The response from the server will include the presentation of its certificate and some negotiation of ciphers or methods of encryption that will be used for this session. Your browser will use the public key to begin negotiation of a secret that only the server and your browser will know. The server has its own key, known as the private key, and uses this key to unlock or decrypt the data your browser sent and learn of the new secret key they will use from there on. It is this new secret key that is used to secure your data. Once you've completed your transaction and the session is over, all of this is torn down. If you access the service later, a new session with a new secret will be created. As an exercise, take note of the websites that you use that have a padlock icon in the address bar. This padlock icon, displayed by your web browser, shows that it is using HTTPS, or HTTP over SSL. Most sites and browsers will redirect to their secure site, even if you don't add the HTTPS protocol manually. Many of us have been trained to look for this icon when making purchases or on any page requesting our passwords or personal data, and for good reason. You may be surprised by how much of the internet is operating on SSL. It isn't just websites that require privacy. Many news and entertainment sites operate completely over SSL. If you tap or click on the lock, you can usually get to the actual certificate and view it yourself. In this way, you can inspect the certificate manually. We'll use this capability later on to demonstrate that SSL inspection is occurring. Without this technology, all the data sent and received by the browser, if intercepted, can be read with minimal effort. More than that, if traffic is redirected to a malicious actor, your browser has no way to warn you that who you are talking to has changed or isn't who you asked it to talk to in the first place. For example, if communication to your favorite search engine were to be compromised and HTTPS was not in play, the responses could be rewritten with a fraudulent copy, and your browser would be none the wiser. Soon, you would be sending your data to criminals bent on stealing your identity or stealing from your company. The prevalence of SSL encryption technology has greatly increased online privacy, both for those who need it, like you and I using the internet as a means of commerce, and for attackers looking to take advantage of the privacy to hide in your network. This technology's high adoption rate has meant that a lot of effort has gone into developing easy-to-use systems for companies or persons to deliver their content over an encrypted connection. As services like Let's Encrypt proliferate, we are seeing more and more threat actors use encrypted communications channels like HTTPS to deliver malware and operate botnets. By securing their delivery and command and control networks, threat actors hope to frustrate and bypass network security appliances of all kinds, like the FortiGate firewall that may be protecting your network today. As part of the services our Cyber Intelligence Center provides, we have visibility into the HTTPS-HTTP ratio for our customers and for our own networks. We've seen HTTPS usage as high as 95% in real-world production environments. Most networks, from our experience, are in the 60 to 80% range. And the worst-case network above, that is 95 out of every 100 online transactions are encrypted and without SSL DPI, are all but invisible to network security products like the FortiGate UTM firewall. FortiGuard web and DNS filtering still allow us to provide reputation-based security services to detect malicious hosts, but the payloads themselves cannot be inspected. Unveiling these communications allows the antivirus and IPS, intrusion prevention system, engines, an opportunity to apply their protective charms to your network traffic as well. Traffic that can be fully inspected can allow the FortiGate to bring to bear its many security features. The most familiar of these features, called profiles, may be the antivirus inspection profile. This profile can be configured to scan downloaded data against known virus signatures. Not all network attacks use stock malware, but many do, and the AV engine plays a key role in the defense in-depth approach to security we provide for our customers. Malicious payloads, once identified, can be blocked or in some cases even disarmed, and appropriate alerts and logs sent out to security teams. This happens before the data arrives to you or your users and relieves the endpoint the burden of protection in this case. With a dramatic increase in IoT devices that do not have the capacity or capability to run endpoint protection solutions, this security feature can sometimes be the only antivirus solution in play for them. The web filtering and DNS filtering security profiles utilize the domain categorization services provided by FortiGuard. Each domain listed in the FortiGuard subscription services can be assigned a category, and actions can be taken by your firewall based on those categories. DNS and web filtering can still work even without SSL inspection, but within the web filtering security profile. Within the web filtering security profile, you can add in the ability to log search phrases used on your network. This kind of information can be very useful during a forensic investigation. There have been many times that I found the root cause of an infection or intrusion to start with a mistyped search or a poisoned search result. Investigating corporate espionage or even abuse of network and computer resources in a company will often take advantage of this type of data as well. The IPS security profile is another familiar concept in network security. IPS provides for packet-level signatures, and with SSL inspection, can now be more fully brought to bear on the data flowing through your network to detect attacks while they are communicating. This engine isn't looking at the sum total of your data's payload, but is looking at markers in the traffic against known malicious content as it flows. Attacks that can be detected by the IPS security profile include protocol-specific attacks against IoT devices like DVR or NVR camera systems, SCADA systems, or more broadly used software like web servers or exploits against your operating system. Shutting these types of attempts down early on can prevent attackers from gaining a foothold in your organization. The final security profile we'll talk about today is the application control security profile. This uses the same base technology as the IPS profile, but instead of identifying threats, it identifies applications that have generated the traffic. Traffic, once identified, can be steered, blocked, or monitored to meet the needs of your organization. Many of the features of web-based applications can be controlled at a surprisingly granular level. For example, it is possible for the FortiGate firewall to determine not only that you're using YouTube or Facebook, but that you're also trying to upload a video, like a video, comment on a post, or share a photo. The same is true for dozens of other applications. This type of control and monitoring can allow your employees to view content on their social media, but not post or view content that may use too much of your corporate bandwidth and cause resource contention for more legitimate business purposes. This same technology can allow you to control who in your organization has that level of access, so that if you have someone whose role it is to manage and promote your company on social media, that they can do so freely, but others may not have the same level of access. We discussed the challenges that come with increased privacy that SSL brings to our online experience, and we discussed the benefits we can glean by utilizing some more advanced technologies like SSL inspection. Let's now take a moment and discuss how we prepare for the implementation of those technologies. To understand some steps that we need to take and why they are important, we'll need to understand the methodology of SSL inspection, again from a high level. SSL inspection is achieved by intercepting the SSL handshake we discussed and inserting ourselves in the middle. You'll often hear the phrase man-in-the-middle attack associated with SSL inspection. This is a type of network attack whereby someone is attempting to intercept and either access or manipulate your data before you do. We described this earlier as a type of attack that SSL is meant to protect you against, and it does so as long as the integrity is maintained. There is no technical difference between a man-in-the-middle attack and the legitimate and legal decryption and inspection of SSL traffic. Only the intent and applicable privacy laws differentiate the two. I know I just mentioned laws, and that may have perked some ears. I am not a lawyer and haven't sought legal counsel before speaking with you, so I'll only speak generally here. There may be some instances or countries that restrict the type of data that may be inspected for an individual, even if you own the equipment and network they're using. If you have any concerns, then you may wish to speak with your own counsel on the matter. That aside, our intent here is only to apply the maximum level of security we can to the networks that our customers and employees depend on. We've got some suggested defaults to help mitigate the issue in a practical manner coming up. A device engaging in SSL inspection receives the SSL handshake from the server. Instead of forwarding that response to your browser, the client, the firewall, will pretend to be the client when talking to the server, and it will pretend to be the server when talking to you. This is also the same as a behavior known as proxying. The firewall will generate a certificate on behalf of the website you requested, but sign it with its own key instead of the server's key. The FortiGate will negotiate a secret with the server on your behalf and will use its own certificate to negotiate a secret key with you. By possessing both sets of secrets, the firewall is then able to open the encrypted packets, perform the necessary actions, and then encrypt them as if they were never opened and send them to the next party. A device engaging in the SSL inspection services. We've already read that. Earlier we talked about SSL encryption being operated on PKI, public key infrastructure, and how that system was built on a chain of trust. Our first step to implementing SSL DPI is to establish your FortiGate firewall as a legitimate link in that chain. How exactly this can be accomplished varies, but it is in general done by exporting the root certificate used by your firewall to sign SSL traffic. The images here show manually importing a certificate. For Windows systems in an Active Directory network environment, this can be achieved quite easily with a group policy. The certificate, once exported from the firewall, can be directly imported into a group policy object and configured to add the root certification authority of your firewall to the Windows operating system root certification authority store. This will allow your operating system and all components that use the OS certificate store to trust your firewall and the certificates it generates. With this accomplished, we can move on to the next step. So we have the certificate added to the operating system, and it trusts our firewall completely now. There are some caveats that we glossed over. Notice that only the applications that use the operating system store will trust this. There are some applications, like Firefox or Java JRE, that use its own store by default. Non-Windows systems often use stores that you can manage with the OpenSSL utility. In those cases, we must either identify the web resources, the domains or IP addresses that they utilize, and enter them as exclusions, or work to import our root certificate into their stores. Another hurdle we must overcome are two technologies known as HTTP public key pinning and strict transport protocol. Both are techniques developed to allow an application to either remember or have been told the certificate that the server you're talking to should be using and compare it to the one it's seeing during communication. Public key pinning is when the certificate is built in or communicated to the application, and strict transport security compares the last certificate you used to the one being used in the next communication attempt. Violation of either can cause the application or browser to stop communicating. To work around these issues, we utilize the exclusions feature of the SSL inspection security profile. It may be possible for some applications to have these features turned off or modified, but that can often cause considerable effort. If the application can be trusted to an acceptable extent, then the exceptions often prove the most efficient method for balancing security against other priorities. All right, we've deployed the certificate, identified some troublesome apps and sites, and mitigated them successfully, and so now we're ready to go. Almost. We now must identify our users and devices. Identifying our users and devices allows us to target SSL inspection only to the devices where we have deployed our certificate in the previous steps. We can use IP addresses, MAC addresses, or through some user identification methods that are available in the FortiGate firewall. In the case of remote workers, the VPN authentication that they have to go through to sign into the VPN can be used to identify them. Later, we'll create a profile policy that uses their user group to assign the SSL DPI inspection profile. Users or devices that are not part of this group will be directed to a different policy and handled accordingly. All right, enough with the death by PowerPoint here. Let's tempt fate and jump over to a live demo.
All right. So first of all, this is live TV, folks. So there's going to be some mistakes, and we appreciate your grace while we go through this. So Joe has definitely shown us what all it takes to go into creating a DPI profile, the benefits of DPI, the control that you get. I'm just giving Joe some time to set up his demo environment. So what he's going to do is we're actually going to show you within a FortiGate how to actually do this. So hopefully you've seen so far the benefits that can come from that. More importantly, before I turn it over, there's a question and answer period that we want to have here shortly. So there's an area that you can start entering some questions if you'd like Joe and I to answer anything you might have. We have a demo environment here, so if it's something that we need to show you inside our demo environment, just shoot those questions. We've got a couple people here in the room that can intercept those questions and get them over to us. So when Joe's done with the demo, we'll do the questions. So it looks like you're all set up.
Great, thanks. All right. Once we're in the firewall, we're going to go to the user and device section and create a user that our actual user will use to log into the VPN. Here I've created a user called Jerry Smith and set a password. In a production environment, you're going to want to set up the FortiToken mobile for two-factor auth here. We're not going to do that for our demo today, but that's important to do anytime you expose VPN to the internet. Once you've got Jerry set up here, you're going to make a group. And here I've made the VPN user group, and I've assigned Jerry to it. We're going to use that group in our configuration of the VPN. We're going to start here in the SSL VPN portal, where we're going to use the full access VPN. We just want to make sure that tunnel mode's enabled, split tunneling is off, and then we've got a source IP pool. This will be the IP that's assigned to Jerry when he signs in. Split tunneling will force all of Jerry's web traffic to flow through this firewall out to the internet, giving us opportunity to inspect it. Under the VPN settings, after we've configured the WAN port and the actual TCP port to listen on, we want to configure and map this portal that we created for VPN user to full access, which we've already done. Once you've got the VPN configured, you're going to need a policy for all of this to flow through. So we're going to make a policy. Call it VPN to WAN. This will allow Jerry to get to the internet. It isn't sufficient to allow Jerry to access internal resources, but we're not worried about that during this demo. We're going to select the source address range in Jerry's VPN user group. I'm going to allow Jerry to go to all destinations for all services. Here in our security profiles section, we're going to enable some profiles. Again, you're going to want to tune these and, think about them very carefully and their effect on traffic. In our demo, we're just going to use the default. And we're going to use the custom deep inspection profile that's already in the firewall. If we click the pencil icon, we can view the settings on this here. So here's where we have the SSL certificate that's going to be used. This is the one that we've imported into this computer already. We're going to use the reputable websites exemption feature. This is a FortiGuard curated list of websites that we can trust, and we don't need to burden the firewall with inspecting the traffic. To our privacy issue earlier, we're going to exclude finance and banking, health and wellness, and the personal privacy categories, so that traffic won't be inspected either. I like to log all the SSL exemptions. And that's all we need here. We're set to log security events. So that policy is sufficient to allow Jerry to VPN into the firewall, come out through this policy, and have his traffic inspected. We're not going to do a connect to VPN portion of the demo here. We don't want to stretch the graces of a live demo that far, but we will, imagine that Jerry's pulled up FortiClient, he's signed in, he's entered his FortiToken mobile, and he's connected to the firewall, and he's using this policy. We're going to use this LAN to WAN policy I've got configured, and I'm going to turn off DPI, just use certificate inspection, to demonstrate that with it off, when we go to ESPN.com, that we're seeing ESPN's actual certificate. We're going to do that by clicking on the lock, viewing the certificate, and we notice here that it's issued by Entrust Certification Authority. If we view the path, we can see the chain of trust here goes back to entrust.net. We assume that that is who ESPN actually bought their certificate from. I'm going to close this out. Go back to our policy. We're going to enable the custom DPI profile. And we'll pull up ESPN again. We'll check the certificate. And we can see now that this certificate is issued by our FortiGate. And if we were to look at the certificate and check its serial number, we would see that it matches. We can see the certification path goes back to the FortiGate and no longer shows Entrust. And from an end user perspective, if this is done correctly, that's all they see, which is, unless you look for it, is nothing at all. And it's really that simple.
All right. That was a great demo. Thank you. I know you put a lot of work in this, so I really appreciate you did a great job.
Thank you.
We do have some questions. They're really good questions. Before we get to those, I wanted to just emphasize a couple things. Number one, you're utilizing the FortiGate certificate. So if there are questions about, well, I need to go out and buy a third-party certificate, you don't need to do that, right? So you kind of described it well. This is a man-in-the-middle attack, right? Essentially, it's control. That's what SSL inspection is, right? Yeah. We have to take apart the packet, look at it, and then put it back together. Mm-hmm. So one, using the FortiGate certificate, which you did show with ESPN. Also, emphasis on remote worker, right? So this is a solution where the remote worker, this gives us even more control from an administration standpoint because we have a remote worker deployed, and now we're able to see that traffic better.
That's right.
I also wanted to hone on something real quick. I noticed when you were setting up the VPN that you said that split tunneling was off.
That's right.
Right. Yep. So just to explain how that works, if you're in a home environment, Joe was accurately describing how if you're a remote worker and you want that worker to operate securely while remote, You want all that traffic to go back to the corporate firewall and out the internet.
That's right. Yeah, even their internet traffic, not
right.
just the
we don't want them using their home internet.
Right.
Okay. So that's what that was for. So the split tunneling being off, and since we deal with a lot of regulatory compliance things, that's actually a regulatory requirement. So split tunneling needs to be off in order to get all that traffic. All right, so let's go in. We've got a couple questions, and they're good ones. So the first one is, what happens if the remote certificate is untrusted? Does it show the real end certificate for review, or does it use an untrusted generic certificate?
So if the FortiGate's certificate that it uses for DPI is trusted, but the website is presenting an untrusted certificate back to you, then you will see the FortiGate will use its untrusted CA certificate. And I can show you where that is in the FortiGate.
Yeah, if you'd like to show us real quick. If it'll take you a minute, do you want me to?
No, it's okay.
I can answer the second one.
It's okay. So this certificate here will be displayed to the browser in the event that the website that you've attempted to go to has presented an untrusted certificate to the FortiGate. It'll display this untrusted, and you'll know that that's why you're getting that error.
Okay. I assume he means that if you go to a website and they don't have a certificate.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of browsers now are warning you that the website you're going to does not. Okay. All right. Second question, kind of a two-part, but I totally get where this is going. So it's been my understanding that industry-wide DPI SSL can be a bit finicky as to reliable, seamless performance. Has that been something you guys have observed from an industry perspective, and has FortiGate had the same challenges with seamless performance from the end user's perspective? And he's following up and saying, previous question based on my experience on the sonic wall and attempting to roll this out required some management overhead, which in the end got to be a problem. Let me answer one part, and then you can answer the other. So specifically speaking to the sonic wall piece, it's important to understand that the FortiGates operate with something called an ASIC chip. So the ASIC chip is the advantage that FortiGate has over everyone. So you and I have both been in IT for a long time. You've used a subset of firewalls. I have used my own subset of firewalls, and combined, FortiNet is superior in this reason because of the overhead that he's talking about is cured by the ASIC chip. The ASIC is definitely taking that overhead. Now, you had done some, in your demo, you had done some showing of using the FortiGuard sites. And I think, do you want to talk about, I think that takes some of the,
absolutely.
We talked about it earlier, the complexity.
That's right, yeah. It does help with the complexity of a DPI deployment. And so there's kind of two kinds of overhead we're talking about, right? So there's a performance overhead that the ASIC doing SSL offloading it doesn't eliminate, but the throughput is amazing on the FortiGate firewalls because of that. So the administrative overhead is here. We handle that here in the exempt from SSL inspection, and we handle it in the policy itself. So by utilizing the categories and websites here, we can, the reputable websites, that helps us get past, some of the issues you might have had with Skype or some other communications applications that may have given you trouble, and then these web categories. So you can also add in addresses. There's a lot of addresses pre-configured in your firewall that you can add in, and it works. It allows FQDNs to come in and whitelist a whole domain as long as you trust it. So those really serve to take off the burden. The other thing that we do is the user identification piece really is key. You've got a lot of IoT devices out there you can't put their certificate on. And, like a lot of phones, even if you do put their, right? Yeah, some of your servers and the applications they use. Phones get really picky. I've done this with an Android phone, and like the Core OS doesn't like it, but some of the apps do. You'd use the exemptions to manage that, but also you can use your policies to control who even gets the DPI applied. So limiting this to the users that you've deployed that certificate to for Windows and Mac systems really goes a long way in taking that burden out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So when you're planning your deployment, and you're seeing this as an overwhelming task. What you're saying is we have the ability to deploy this to maybe a test group.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you can do your own internal testing and exclusions. Certainly everybody's got different applications that might be sensitive to DPI. So that's really the opportunity is to really start carving that out. It sounds like to me like the most difficult part about this is actually getting the certificate out.
Yeah,
right.
That could be a challenge in some organizations. You can leverage Active Directory. If you have an RMM tool, you can try and leverage that as well. If you're not using Windows-based operating systems, you're going to have to use whatever tools the OS gives you, or third-party tools that are out there. You do have to get the certificate out, and we did a really simple demonstration here today. The FortiGate can integrate with Active Directory and kind of do dynamic user identification and map users to IPs. That can go a long way into shunting the traffic around to the correct policy, to make sure that we're targeting the users we're expecting for this kind of deployment and make it a success for the company.
Okay. Well, it doesn't look like there are any other questions. So we do have some action items here. Joe, if you want to pop us over to our PowerPoint slides, and we'll get this ended. We do have some action items that you can take advantage of. Certainly, this is something that if you've been attending Secure Cyber Defense webinars, we're getting our capabilities up even more.
Yeah.
I really have to give some kudos out to the guys that were here, Nathan, my son, and Kyle Zeck and Jonathan Buffington. They've worked really hard all morning to get some of this new technology integrated. And we're just going to continue to make it better, right? So we want to be that voice. We want to educate. So you do have some abilities to contact us. So we do offer cyber threat assessments. That's a really good way that we can put a device, a FortiGate, inside your network. So if you're not using FortiNet technology now, that's a great way to get started. You had showed a graph of being able to show the difference between HTTP and HTTPS traffic. That is how we would do that. Yeah. So we would be able to show you how much encrypted traffic that you're not inspecting. And then signing up for threat alerts. So this morning, our marketing department set up our contact form, which is secdef.com/contact. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's a sign up for alerts button. And if you just fill out that short form, you'll get added to our email distribution list. We do not use that for sales reasons. So alerts for vulnerabilities and cyber threats is primarily why we use that. And then any new webinars that we put on will be put through that system. And then if you have any questions at all, you can just email us at sales@secdef.com. That's probably the fastest way to just integrate with us and get started. Just because it's a sales email address doesn't necessarily mean somebody from sales is going to visit you or reach out to you and sell you something. So so this video, I know we kind of got a rough start. I apologize. That was actually my fault, and I'll take the blame for that. The entire webinar is being recorded. So if you missed some of it, don't worry. We will put this up on our YouTube site. So give us about a day to get that all rendered out and edited, and then we'll put it up on our Secure Cyber Defense YouTube site. So really, that's all we had for you today. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully, most of us have boats that we can get home. It's been absolutely raining here in Dayton, Ohio for since 5 o'clock yesterday. So lots of water on the ground. So everybody have a great day, have a great rest of your evening, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.